I'm doing what nobody has done, and that is to draw a complete map of Springfield from The Simpsons with every single location in all 700 plus episodes. Even though you have this map, which is amazing, it's not a drawing of all the places. And I've found things I disagree with, such as Lake Springfield, which has been shown several times on the show as being in the eastern corner, not up north. And it's also 20 years old and missing a ton of locations. Since then, we've also gotten some updated maps of Springfield, such as this subway map, which helps us a little bit in pinpointing the locations. Here's the updated version of my map. It's a work in progress, and I'm about halfway done. The city of Springfield is divided into many districts and areas: West Springfield, the harbor, downtown, the Springfield National Forest, the Pressport Estates, and so on. And my work process has been fairly simple. I use this wiki page and go by every single location, one after the other. Take this location for instance, the Yarn Barn. I check the episode, see where it's located within the city and place it. For buildings and locations that appear in multiple episodes, I try to find a common ground. So in the end, everything important will be covered. Let's go from left to right and start at this top corner. One issue I've faced is that there's a lot of stuff in the show and on the wiki page that is outside of Springfield, such as the Duff Gardens, Itchy and Scratchy Land, Terror Lake, and so on. I mean, I'm making a map of Springfield, the city, but I also include a little bit of things outside of Springfield. And so you see, this is outside of Springfield. The Highlands from season 33, but also the road to Spittle County. This is from one of the classics. Remember, Homer went to Spittle County and he saw Lurleen there. So I'm adding a couple of parts from it. In Spittle County you also have a city where Lurleen records her single, but that's not part of this map because that's like outside of the map. So I've just included these parts. But the fun thing is that you have this road over here, which is very far away from Springfield. And you have the gag where Homer drives past the Flaming Pete's sign, drive past the burned down Flaming Pete's, the fertilizer, the county dump, and the sulfur mine before entering Spittle County. But the road to Springfield has some other gags. This is also a fun one. You remember when Homer went to the rock and roll fantasy camp? This is going to be over here. But before they went there, they passed by some important locations. They see the mental institution, the slaughterhouse, and Santa's village. Santa's village is actually a location that has appeared in more episodes. Maggie is on this ride here in a later episode. And let's go further down south. We enter the desert area. This river here will be the river where Ernest Borgnine and the kids sail past this river, and Homer, Ned, and the kids go down this river down into the ocean when they get lost at sea. This river over here is also quite long. It's also the one where Sideshow Bob is reciting the entire HMS Pinafore before he ends up in Springfield at some point in time. But let's go down the road. You have the Badlands. You see, this is the desert landscape of Springfield. Area 51A and the Alkali Flats. Here's the Army Proving Ground and the rural route, which goes to Cletus's farm, which is over here. And it connects to this road here. This is also going to be the place where they find the angel skeleton. As you see, there's still things to add here. The train tracks here are consistent because the time they see Mount Cardmore, they are on a train, and the train tracks go down to the steel mill. Let's continue on. This is where the owner of Santa's Little Helper lives. Let's go down here. This is from one of the classics, the US Army Force Base. Here's where Sideshow Bob was hiding before he went into the Duff blimp and projected his image to this television. And this is also the plane from that one gag before they take off in this plane over here and go into the Badlands. In the season 26 episode Let's Go Fly a Coot, we have a flashback to the Springfield Air Force Base. I think those two locations are the same with just a lot of decades in between. And you also have the old Springfield town. And let's go further down south. You have the largest building in Springfield, which is the Burj Khalifa. There's also some additional buildings here. I've added a cemetery. The cemetery is at the ocean. We see it when they try to find the hellfish treasure. I also moved the Hall of Records down here. It used to be in downtown of Springfield, but I moved it here because you have the scene where Homer looks out of the Hall of Records and see where his mother is supposed to be buried, but then he goes into the graveyard and he sees that it's not his mother's grave. So I have it here. And here's the world's largest dandelion, which is something that is not in the wiki, but I've added here because it's in this episode, The Squirt and the Whale, where Bart and Lisa are biking and they are going to the Springfield beach. You have the nude beach here and the Springfield beach here. And here's the beach trail. Here's some additional buildings I've added from the episode where they go to massages and they pass these buildings. But let's continue on the beach side and down here, which is something that took a lot of time. The Springfield Squidport. I've been debating with myself where the arch is, but I've seen episodes where it's in front of the ocean and in front of the Springfield Squidport, but it's also in some episodes like here with the ocean on the right side, so I've added just 2 arches. Here's where the car is parked in the episode where we first see it on the opening day. Even though we see the Springfield Squidport in several episodes, I use the opening day as the correct order of these buildings. So when they go past here, this is all in the correct order. There's an episode later in the show, much later, where these 2 buildings have switched side, but I'm just sticking with the original episode where Homer and Marge are just going past these buildings. Here you have the Moe's Brewing Company, which is a tunnel that goes to Moe's. I'm just going to add a little bit more and then I'll just let the tunnel vanish, because obviously I'm not going to make a tunnel directly into the entrance of Moe's. Here's also something that is not in the wiki, but we see it in the background in this episode, that there's a climbing wall. Planet Hype, it's sometimes referred to as Planet Springfield, but I have to choose, and Planet Hype seems to be the correct answer here. And there's also like some additional buildings that we see in the various episodes. And here's a mattress district and the Paradise Pier. Let's take the bridge up downtown. Not a lot of new changes here. I've added some additional buildings. There's a lot more to be done in terms of some ragged lines and some perspective issues I have to fix. But here's a lot of buildings that have been added. And let's just take the bridge. This is the ice bridge over the river. I've added a small river behind the nuclear power plant, which has the nuclear lake and the pneumatic tube dump from Marge Gets a Job. We see that beavers are making a small dump in the river, and the road keeps on going. I'm going to add much more to the power plant, of course. There's an episode where they back out of the parking lot and end up in the trout hatchery. This is also part of the classics. And here's the road that goes to the various Christmas trees and over the dam, which will just keep on going over the Springfield sign. Here's the gorge with a trampoline and to the highway. I've added a bunch of new buildings over here. You have the business district with the Lisa log going through Omnipave, and I've also added the fast food boulevard over here. In the subway map, the fast food boulevard seems to be much closer to the Simpsons house, but in this episode the log goes through the Kentucky Fried Panda, so I've just connected these 2 areas together. And also, the thing about subway maps, they're not like entirely direct lines. But the fast food boulevard is a fun location with a lot of fast food restaurants. Here's also one Krusty Burger. There's going to be 27 Krusty Burgers in Springfield, because that's what I say in one episode, one of them being at sea. So that's going to be a fun game trying to locate all the Krusty Burgers in Springfield. I've added the garden on top of the Quickie Mart, and you also have the Springfield Drive-In. There's also an issue about the locations that are at the same place. For instance, in a season, I believe it's 27 maybe, where Quickie Mart is destroyed and then it's rebuilt into the Quickie Fresh, which is like this new and improved Quickie Mart. But at the end of the episode, that building is destroyed and they go back to the original Quickie Mart. So obviously I'm not going to make an additional building called Quick and Fresh, because it's the same building as the Quickie Mart. The same problem is with Moe's, which should be, where is it? It's down here. Moe's goes through several changes in the show. I also have one Easter egg here, the Nag and the Weasel, which is one of the signs that is on top of Moe's. I'm not going to make like 5 different kind of Moe's in this map. It's going to be this one, which is the classical Moe's next to King Tut's and the hotel. And all of these buildings are established as being next to Moe's. And there's a lot of them, but all of these are next to Moe's in the show. I've added some additional signs and buildings. So let's move on to the Evergreen Terrace. There's some additional buildings here. Most of these are not in the wiki because this is like buildings that are just seen in the various episodes, such as Maya's house. Maya is like the short woman that Moe starts dating. And you also have this one. This is one of the perks of being up to date with the show, because the older map doesn't have this house. This is the home of the squeaky voiced teen, and we actually get to know his real name. It's Andrew Teen in this episode, which is one of the newer episodes, and we see where he lives and we also see his family. So that's his house over here, and also Milhouse's house is here. You can see the school over here. And let's just move down south. I've added the Duff Stadium. The stadium has been a pickle because the Isotopes are training in 3 different stadiums with 3 different outlooks. This one, the Duff Stadium. You also have the Isotope Stadium behind here. And you also have the Springfield War Memorial Stadium. So like, what's the difference? Are they supposed to be the same place? We don't know. It's been very inconsistent, but I've just added 3 different stadiums in 3 different parts of the city, just to have all 3 included. So let's move down south. Here's Crackton, which is close by Brooklyn. And as you see in the episode where Lisa takes the bus, she's going to end up at the industrial access road over here. Let's see, here's something more. I've added this stadium. Springfield has a lot of stadiums, by the way. Here's the Duff Brewery with this sign. I'm very satisfied with it. I also have them brewing Duff Light and Duff Dry. I'm also thinking about adding a small river here, because in the episode where they blow up the bridge to the Duff Brewery, they mentioned that it's technically on an island. So I'm thinking of adding a small river here. So this place is actually an island. Here we have the Russian district. Remember that Lisa ends up here and she asks one of the guys playing chess about the museum, and he says that it's 6 blocks this way, so I'm going to add the museum 6 blocks this way. Next to the Russian district is Little Ukraine, and you also have something like an elevated place here. This is a classical scene with Homer ending up on this dock.
Look out!
And seemingly ending up in the ocean, but he ends up in a river instead. I've added the ship of Ankara, and here we have something fun. This is also from one of the newer seasons, I think season 35 or something. It's the Yellow Lotus. That is an episode that entirely parodies the White Lotus, and they do a good job of it. But in the episode we see that the various people from Springfield, they all arrive by boat. So I was thinking, is this an island or something? Is this in Springfield? But Kent Brockman actually confirmed that this big resort is in Springfield. So I've just added it here at the far bottom. And we actually see a shot from above in like 2 seconds. where it's technically connected to the mainland, but it's like elevated like this. So that's fun. Let's move here to the road that goes out of Springfield. We have these various camps. This is from that flashback episode where Homer technically meets young Marge, like the girl camp and the boy camp, and the fat camp over here where Homer ends up. The Baldwin residence is here. And let's move back into the city. We have Little Seattle over here with a lot of coffee shops. This is the Sky Park line. There's an episode where they build a Sky Park out of the monorail. So I haven't done that with the entire monorail, but just this part. At some point in the episode, the monorail gets active again and destroys the whole thing. Here's a beer district. And you have the Spruce Caboose over here. And yeah, you also have the monorail here connected to the donut shop. The Krusty Lou Studios I've added here. And like I mentioned in the previous episode, Luke Perry is shot out of the Krusty Lou studio. An amazing gag from the show. Here's the Ye Old of Rampin with the Sapphire Lounge. This is just seen in one episode, but we see it next to the Ye Old of Rampin sign, so we know it's technically next to this building. Let's move over here. Way far back behind Lisa's Mountain we have the Honeymoon Mountain, which is from a great episode actually. It's called Pixelated and Afraid. It's one of my favorites from one of the newer seasons. Some additional new buildings here, the National Fatherhood Institute. This is part of a gag. When the school children are going to the box factory, they pass the Toy Town, the fireworks testing range, and the slide factory before ending up at the box factory. Here you have some new buildings. The Springfield State Prison and the Springfield Penitentiary. I don't really know the difference. Is it because one of them can do executions and the other can't? I'm not sure, so I just added them as two separate buildings connected to each other. So the times we see it, the sign Springfield State Prison, they are on this side, and the Springfield Penitentiary, they are on this side. That's just one way to solve it, because they have two different wiki pages. This is also something that is not in the wiki. We see that Marge and Lisa go to this abandoned greenhouse in this episode, which is right next to the penitentiary. We have the airport over here. The little black box is going to be here. There's also going to be like this Springfield Airport Hotel here, which we see being very close to the Springfield Airport. We have a very shady district here with a lot of strip clubs and bars. This is part of Skid Row, which is very similar to Crackton, but it's not really the same. I've also added the highway here. One thing is that Springfield Airport refueling way is here, and the bus 22A ends up way on the other side here. I don't know how to solve it, because I think the Springfield Airport should be here. We don't see how much time has passed, so maybe they take the bus to the airport refueling way, then take the highway with the bus that ends up in the rural route over here. That's my solution. It's not ideal, but this is part of the problems with making a map. You have all of these contradictions all the time. There's still a lot to be added in the map. The Jewish district is going to be here. We also have the tire fire. I haven't added the retirement castle. I think that's going to be up here. This place is also very empty, but there's going to be a lot of activity here as well, like Rainy Wolf Castle's house, Kent Brockman's house. There's much more to be added, but I'm very satisfied with the outlook as of now. A lot of buildings have been added. Oh, this is a fun one, the Nighthawk Diner from the Hopper painting. This is also a skyscraper. It's quite fun. It's from the Maker Mo's Sky Bar from Whiskey Business. There's a lot of gags as well. This is a fun gag, you know, when the hurricane is going through the Springfield Harmonica store and the ye old harpsichord store. That's a fun gag. This is also from one of the newer episodes. It's not part of the wiki. There's a popular kid in Lisa's class. We don't know which kid it is, but they throw a birthday party and Lisa is invited. Here's the Matlock Expressway, Frink's house, the Blocko store, neat and tidy piano movers, Nick's bowling shop. The other Nick's is at the Springfield Mall in here. Obviously we're not going to illustrate any of the shops inside the mall, so that's going to be left out. And you also have all of the non-canon material. So I've added a couple of them from the Treehouse of Horror, because I'm adding those that are not conflicting with any information on the show. So I'm also adding things from the comics. My goal is, after all, to make a complete map of Springfield. So I'm adding everything that I can add. Like, this is part of the Springfield comics, the Navajo Casino, but we see it for like one panel in one of the comics. So I've just hid it behind this hill because, you know, it's just from the comics. While important locations such as this one is much more viewable. I could go on for ages just looking at this drawing. All of the gags, like the 3rd Street subway station with that car that is falling down. Everything that is happening outside of Moe's. The diet sign in the forest. The people moving this tube out of Pharmaceuticals, you know, with Homer inside of it. There's a million Easter eggs here, and I'm very much looking forward to when the whole map is finished. I have to do a lot of work, shading it and illustrating the rest. I hope to spend a little bit more time with it because it's been 2 years since my last update. I'm very much intrigued by the map yet again, especially since there have been a bit more people now that have commented and expressed wishes for me to go back to this drawing. So here is my spreadsheet. I started the whole thing with the 7042 Evergreen Terrace, and like you see, it says where they are on the map, as well as linking them to the various wiki pages. And I also check with the newer seasons if there's some conflicting information. Make sure to check out season 36 and 37 in case I have missed something. And yeah, it goes by a lot of locations here, several hundreds of locations that have been added. Yeah, and I also have this one, which is kind of like some additional notes and stuff that I need to double check. I also have something from the comics here, and this is the places without names. That's mostly like the gags, such as the Sky Blue House or Hans Moleman's house from Man Getting Hit by a Football. There's like a Leonard Nimoy statue in the mix. Fleetwood Mac house, that's also not in the wiki, so I've added that. Janie's house, Jimbo Jones' house, all of that is not in the wiki. I'm adding all the Krusty Burgers here. I hope you enjoyed this rundown. I promise to be more efficient in making the rest of the map, because something has sparked my interest in going back to the map, hopefully make a complete map of Springfield.